Hello everybody and welcome to Quarantine Cooking. It's the episode that you've all been waiting for. Time to learn how to make the perfect hummus. The first step for perfect hummus is to soak some dried chickpeas overnight in plenty of water. So here I have 2 cups of dried chickpeas. Into that I'm going to add 3 teaspoons of kosher salt and 1/2 teaspoon or 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And this will just help our chickpeas come out really tender, melt in your mouth, so they'll be easy to just whip up in the blender. And then at least 2 quarts of water, or enough water to just cover them about 4 times the amount of chickpeas. So you want plenty of room for them to soak and plump up nicely. And you can kind of mix them around just to make sure the salt and the baking soda is all dissolved. And then we're gonna let this sit overnight, minimum 10 hours. So our chickpeas soaked overnight and they're nice and plump. As you can see, they've about doubled, or some of them even tripled in size. And we're gonna put these in a medium or large saucepan or soup pot, along with 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and then just cover with water. And we're going to be bringing this to boil on high heat. And you just want to make sure there's about 1 inch of liquid above your chickpeas all through this cooking process. 1/2 inch. Give it a stir to make sure that the baking soda is evenly distributed. And we'll just let this come to a boil and turn the heat down and cook these for about 2 hours. So our chickpeas are boiling, and as you can see, there's some foam that comes to the surface, and just skim that off. This will help prevent any gastrointestinal discomfort later. And turn your heat down to low. Add 2 teaspoons of kosher salt and 2 bay leaves. Give it another stir. And now keep checking and stirring occasionally, but you can let this just cook on low for 2 hours. At the end, try at least 3 of your chickpeas and they should be creamy and melt in your mouth. Then just set them aside to cool, and we'll be ready to whip up some hummus. So our chickpeas cooked up beautifully. They're meltingly tender, and I set them at room temperature so they're completely cool and they have a lovely broth all around them. But we'll get to those in a minute. First, in a blender for our hummus, combine 10 cloves of garlic and 2/3 cup of lemon juice. Ooh. And if 1 little seed gets in there, it'll be okay. And I like to blend the garlic and the lemon juice together with a little bit of salt and let that mellow for about 10 minutes, because it helps kind of tame the garlic if it's really assertive, which this is a powerful bulb, so just blend it till all the garlic is in fine bits. And then just let this sit 10-15 minutes about, and then we'll get to the rest of the hummus. Our garlic has been tamed a little. Well, as much as a whole bunch of garlic. 10 cloves can be. Into this we're gonna add 1 cup of tahini. And the best kind of tahini is the real runny, drizzly kind. The cat thinks hummus is good too. And then 1/2 teaspoon of cumin seeds. My blender's high powered enough where it's gonna pulverize these. If yours is not, make sure to just use ground cumin. But fresh cumin is key. And blend this up. And it's gonna end up being pretty thick, so we're gonna add a little bit of water. And I actually like to make big batches of just this tahini lemon juice sauce because it's basically the same ratios that I use in all of my different hummus that I make and baba ganoush. So if you wanna make this ahead of time, that's a good thing to, you know, keep in mind. So we're looking for a really thick paste at this point, and we're gonna add 1/3 cup of ice water. And using really cold water along with the ice cubes is just gonna help emulsify this, because we really don't wanna heat up our garlic too much and like start to cook it with the blender engine.
حصريا على موقع مهرجانات.
Just scrape down the sides to make sure none of the spice or garlic or lemon juice isn't incorporated. And you can tell that things are going the way you want, because it's gonna start getting a little bit lighter in color and be just a very silky texture. I like my hummus very silky. You know, some people like a little bit of texture with the garbanzo beans, and you see it all different ways. I just find that even when you may think after you're all done that your hummus is almost runny, but garbanzo beans are just naturally thickened as they sit overnight. So your hummus will be thicker if it sits a little bit, but runny hummus is very often eaten for breakfast, like in Saudi with just petals of onion or drizzled on some pita. So all variations are pretty good. So as you can see, our tahini mixture almost doubled in volume, which is exactly what we want. And then it should almost be like the texture of like whipped cream, or almost like a buttercream frosting. And at this point, this is when you can have fun if you want to maybe use roasted carrots instead of half of the chickpeas, or if you want to add roasted red bell pepper. This is the time when you want to, you know, do your flavor designs on whatever kind of hummus. I want to show you the perfect classic, so then you can take it and run with it however you like. I'm going to put half a teaspoon of each cayenne, Aleppo pepper, and allspice. And then another teaspoon of salt. Now remember, we did cook our chickpeas with salt and also sodium bicarbonate, so that's going to add sodium to the whole product as well. Just discard your bay leaves. And go ahead and put in half of your chickpeas. And usually in the last 15 minutes, I let some of the cooking liquid evaporate, and I'm cooking these on the stove. But any of the liquid that's left over, it almost turns to jelly. But if you have a lot of liquid, just make sure you set that aside, because we just want the chickpeas at this point. But if you find that your hummus is too thick when you start blending, then you can start adding a little bit of the liquid back in. Right? Blend it up. Now I'm making a lot of hummus because I don't really know how to not make a lot of hummus, but I am going to include the recipe for you guys that won't be quite this much, if in case you don't definitely need gallons of hummus like we do in this house. Add the rest of your chickpeas, and then if you want to garnish with them, just make sure you reserve a couple. So we're gonna we'll leave 10 in there to top our hummus with. And then you're gonna be taking these into just very smooth. I can't emphasize that enough. People always try my hummus and they're like, oh, it's just so silky. It's because I spend a long time with the blender. So it's gonna gonna be probably at least 10 minutes of just blending. Just know that. Enjoy it. Okay, now we're just gonna add about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And we need a little more to, of course, garnish. The last of the blending. And if you do find that your hummus is too thick after you scrape the edges of your blender with a spatula to kind of help it along, I recommend adding 1 ice cube at a time if you don't have any bean liquid reserved, because ice cubes are, again, going to make sure that you don't start cooking your garlic anymore, and it's going to keep that light, ethereal texture that we really want. And before I officially say that we're all done using the blender, just make sure you taste. See, this is, it's a runnier than you may think, and in like an hour it's going to be the perfect consistency. Very nice. And then to finish my hummus, I like to really have fun with garnishing. It's great just like this, straight out of the blender. But one of the things I love about Mezza is how beautiful all the food looks and how much pride families and chefs everywhere take with making each of the dishes as incredible looking as it tastes. So this is better after the hummus sits for a little bit, so you can really make nice canals for your olive oil to nestle in. But we'll have nice soft peaks to corral it, so don't worry. I like to do about a tablespoon on top. And then I have a little bit of paprika, some finely chopped parsley, and a serrano pepper. And just, you want to finely chop the serrano pepper, and that nice little crunch and the slight bit of heat all throughout this goes so well with the creamy hummus. Plus it's just a beautiful contrast. So we'll do our parsley. When I'm making multiple flavors of hummus, usually my classic trifecta are roasted red pepper, Kalamata olive, and then a plain. Lately I've been really into making beet hummus too, but another story. I like to really go intricate with each of the different designs. So like the red pepper, I'll like create a stencil and have like smoked paprika hearts on it or something like that. And then that way people will know if they're in line at the family style meal, they can know which kind of hummus is which. And then just a little bit of the paprika. If you like it more cumin-y, it's good to put a little more cumin on top too. Well, there you have my famous recipe for hummus. And it's a labor of love that I've taken years to perfect, and I'm really excited that I got to share it with you all.
I took a look in